Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for June the 25th, 2021. This is episode number 64. Our top stories today, we visit the first Lucid Motors studio. The 2022 Audi e-tron is getting some big improvements. Ford Mustang Mach-E, GT, and GT Performance. Actual range has been revealed. I'm Dominic Ioni, Inside EVs forum moderator and Inside EVs editor. Joining us today is the incredibly dapper Tom Moloughney, Inside EV's editor and host of the YouTube channel, State of Charge with Tom Moloughney. We also have the splendid Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, available on all your usual podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the Out of Spec Studios. He also puts together wicked awesome videos for the Inside EV's YouTube channel. So please subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications. Okay, so welcome everybody. Let's kick it off by charging. Let's kick it off by talking about what's been charging in our driveways this week. Well, first of all, have you all had a good week?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, I caught a video of Martin somewhere. I don't know if it was on TikTok or Twitter or what, charging the Kona electric at a new charging station by his house, and he was so excited. And then I thought to myself, well, this man's out of his mind because it's only 50 kilowatts. How happy could you be? And so what's up with these new 50 kilowatt charger installs going around in the UK, Martin?
I'm just happy that there's new infrastructure going in. There's a couple of interesting things happening. There's our aging national network, arguably the world's first national charging, DC fast charging network, is probably 10 years old now. The previous owners had just stopped investing in it, and they were openly touting it. They'd said, the guy who runs the company wrote a book last year, and he put in his book, we're trying to sell the thing. And so it wasn't a secret that they'd shopped it to everyone who could possibly buy a ChargePoint operator. Anyway, they finally got shots of it. And so the new owners are busy putting in new hardware to our motorway network, which is great because the old stuff was, after 10 years, it just doesn't work properly anymore. And the other thing is, for those of us that enjoy Bjørn Newland's videos out of Norway, he's often talks about Gron Contact, which are like, what is that word? Like, it's a network. Anyway, so they changed their name recently to MER, which is much easier to say. Right. And
that's a great branding decision. Really good branding decision.
MER is good.
MER, MER. They come to the UK through it's a Norwegian oil company, I think Statkraft that own it, and yeah, so they are busy putting in 50 kilowatt units at various places, and they're just hitting around where I live, which is great. And so we all love new infrastructure, but yeah, it's an interesting point. Like, do we think getting excited over new 50 infrastructure is is worth it or not? Because I was charging the Kona this week, and pretty low state of charge, like 10%. And it started at about 46, 47 kilowatts on a 50 unit, and held it pretty well. But then the taper comes in, and I'm like, should I be annoyed that there's not faster chargers now in 2021? Or actually, that car's only ever going to charge at mid-70s. Should we just be grateful for more infrastructure? What do you guys think?
Well, I got excited this week. I saw a post somewhere about a bollard, as they call it in the UK, that had a little charging point on it. And this will be a very low amount of energy coming through. I don't know how many, 30 amps or 40 amps, 110, or I guess it'd be 220 if it was in the UK. But anyway, it's like street side, like bollards, like little poles that, you just park. And it's like you have, a lot of people, park on the street in cities. And this is like a low cost solution, infrastructure that, you could install a bunch of those for the same cost as you could do a charging, like a high power charging station.
Were those the ones that go up and down into the ground? Because I've seen those.
Yeah, those are cool too. But that's a different thing. Cool. Yeah, those are more traffic control, I think. But
go ahead.
What? The ones that come out of the ground when you want to charge, and when you finish, they go back in again.
Oh, I've never.
Yeah.
They have those. Those are a thing.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's a company
Fully Charged did a whole video on it a few years ago, and I was just blown away and so excited. We don't have them here in the U.S., but in London, I think they have them.
But that would be more expensive. I think that would add a lot more cost to what should be like really a low cost thing. Just get them in the ground, and then make them fancy later on or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I've had the founder, one of the founders on my podcast before. So yeah, this stuff pops out of the pavement.
Oh yeah.
When you want to charge. And I think it's 7 kilowatts maybe.
Okay.
And again, it's designed for overnight charging.
Right.
And then when you're done, it just disappears back into the pavement. So less street furniture around, which is always good. It always looks nice. And it solves that problem of how do we charge so many cars that don't have off-road parking. And again, look, lots of, particularly some of the older cities here in the UK, they are hundreds of years old. They weren't designed for cars. Right. And so, we are a small island, and it's a lot of housing is pretty densely packed together. But no, I got super excited about new 50 kilowatt units going in. And I was like, maybe I should be more ambitious and be saying, look, come on, look, it's 2021. Be putting in, hundreds or 150s. And then I thought, well, look, that Kona can only charge a little bit quicker on a max charge. So is it wasted infrastructure if you spend a load of money putting in really fast chargers? Then again, the next generation of cars coming, the VW MEB platform, that's going to max out at, over 125 every day of the week. That's just going to love fast chargers. So maybe I shouldn't be so excited about 50 kilowatt units anymore. Maybe we need to raise our expectations a bit.
Well, I think there's go ahead, Tom.
Okay, so our audience in the comments, mixed bag of feedback so far just on this topic. Here's what I think works really well, and I'm seeing a ton of it implemented, although no one seems to know how to get the software correct to make it work here in Colorado, which is you say, for this site, we expect a peak output of 750 kilowatts, whatever it is. Let's say it's a megawatt per site. And then you can put as many chargers as you want in there. And if it's just one car, let them take all the juice. If it's 2 cars, then you split. If it's 4 cars, then you split again. And that way, as cars start taking more and less power, when they start to fill up on their batteries, you can divert some of that power over to the other cars. What happens right now with these ChargePoint CPE 250 units is one car plugged in. This is not for every station, but very common. 125 kilowatts. 2 cars plugged in, 62.5, force split. What I'd love to see is a dynamic split between those two, where, someone's charging a Rivian, they need all the juice they could possibly get, but the other person's only pulling 12 kilowatts in their Leaf. Let them, transfer all of that extra power over to the other vehicle. That way you can utilize the most amount of power that you can get to that site at a reasonable cost. And you have more than just one charging point, because one charging point for DC charging is a disaster at this point. They break, they get blocked, they have issues. People use them. For level 2 charging, people aren't relying on that to just get around all the time in a hurry off the highway. So having 1 or 2 level 2 points, I think, is fine in a ton of different areas. Sorry to cut you off there, Tom.
No, not at all. Then that makes a lot of sense. I probably would have touched on that. Those new ChargePoint Express stations that you're talking about, if I recall correctly, they will be able to do that at some point in the future. I think it's dependent on what options the person gets in the unit, because it's a whole ecosystem of chargers and these big power banks that you can expand as the site expands. I remember when this came on, when ChargePoint introduced this, it was at CES like in 2018 or something. I mean, it was way back. And it was like, wow, 250 kilowatt DC fast chargers. Nobody else had introduced that really yet. And then it just kind of like didn't go anywhere with ChargePoint because of ChargePoint's sales model, that they don't want to own and operate the equipment. You've got to buy it from them. And yeah, those are the units up there. And you can get them at any power level, 50 kilowatts, I think 100, and then all the way up to 250 kilowatts. But the power sharing, I think, is going to be vital, absolutely moving forward. But getting back to Martin's original question, I'm not as down on installing 50 kilowatt units right now, because I think there's no magic bullet for everything. Every site has different needs. And, their 50 kilowatt units are going to be around for a very long time, and they're going to serve properties very well for a very long time. Hell, I have a 24 kilowatt DC fast charger on my property in Montclair, and that's perfect for that property. People are come to that area, they go shopping. It's not meant to enable long distance travel. It's not meant for somebody to start a cannonball run from the property. Although we did do that there. Yeah, I know. That's why I brought that up. Yeah. But we're just nuts. So that's why we did that. But it's a shopping district where people come plug in. They walk around for an hour or two. And when they leave, they've added 100, 120 miles of range to the car. The car doesn't have to be filled. That's one of the things that everybody has to kind of get over with public infrastructure, is that it's not just road trips where, you want to stop for the shortest period of time and get the most amount of energy. There's a lot of other charging that's going to be going on, and the equipment doesn't have to be so. And the thing is, and I know so many people are going to say, no, just put in the highest powered stuff and then it'll suit everybody. You're right, it would, but this stuff is so incredibly expensive. Yeah. You could, when you jump up from a 50 kilowatt DC fast charger to a 350 kilowatt DC fast charger, the cost is exponential. It's insane. I'm working on helping somebody install a bunch of DC fast chargers at 6 locations right now. And it's just astronomical. It's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. And we can get a lot more infrastructure installed and in the ground. And if it's lower power, I'm all for that. But it has to be in the right locations. Like I wouldn't be, along a major interstate. There shouldn't be, 3 50 kilowatt DC fast chargers anymore. I think those main corridors where people are going to be doing interstate travel, 150 kilowatts should be the minimum. But I don't know exactly where yours was installed, Martin, but it might have been perfect for a 50 kilowatt DC fast charger there.
Well, it was at a university. It's at the Bournemouth University, which is in the middle of a housing estate. So there's no real through traffic in that area. So, I mean, it's not on any
fine there.
I know why it's a 50 kilowatt then. At every university, every professor drives a Nissan Leaf. That's perfect.
That's why they need it. That's all
you need. It's just for Nissan Leafs. You just happen to show up in a Kona, but it will only charge Nissan Leafs at a university. It's proven here in the US. You pull into any community college, state school, giant, I live across the street from Colorado State University, 9,000 Leafs everywhere, all first gens, all small batteries, probably all fried, and they just DC charge them all day long.
Huh. Wow. We have a few universities in Tallahassee, Florida, where I live, and they don't really have a whole lot of, charging on like the community college. There's nothing for sure. I think FSU, Florida State University, there's one.
FSU has some ChargePoint chargers around
in the parking garage, but I think that's about it, right?
I've used the ones in the parking garage. I don't know about anywhere else, but I know it. Yeah,
those are the only ones that I know of, like right off the top of my head. Yeah. But
well, sorry to derail our morning conversation. Right. We didn't even get to what's charging up in our driveways.
It's all right. Well, we talked about Martin's Kona electric is.
Oh, I like his blue color. I wanted to mention as well. The spec on your Kona, Martin, is lovely. Nice job on asking for that one.
Surfy blue on the Kona Ultimate, and
is that the actual name of the color?
Yeah, surfy blue is the actual.
And you live at the beach. It's perfect.
Its catalog color is surfy blue.
Surfy or Smurfy?
Both work. Right. I just wish that car was 5% bigger, because I think the spec on that. I even had my Kyle moment this week when I washed the water jets on the windscreen, and it cuts off the air conditioning so that your car doesn't smell of the washer fluid additive.
Or if you make a phone call, it'll cut down the AC fan. Yeah. It's so smart.
It's a good spec, and I tell you what, it's electric everything, and I think there's a kind of feeling around the Hyundais and the Kias that just because Ioniq 5 and EV6 are coming, that in a way that the Kona and the e-Niro are in some way kind of yesterday's news, but it's a new spec for this year, fully loaded with everything, and it's a real comfortable car to drive. And I just wish it was just that little bit bigger, and it would be a slam dunk for me.
So a Niro.
So, and I just need the
Nero.
bigger boot. So I just need a bigger boot, and that's it. Just get the Nero.
Yeah, that Neros are everywhere here in Colorado.
Really?
More so than anywhere else in the country, because we have this, like, I don't know, 300 of them for Lyft all running around. And so the CCS chargers are always just filled with Neros everywhere.
All right. Hey, so Tom, this week, I believe you put out a video for Inside EVs that has you visiting a Lucid Motor Studio. So, like, this is the first one or something?
So, yeah, you had said it was the first one. It's not the first Lucid Studio to open. It's the first one to open in New York. I think it's the ninth or 10th studio to open so far. Lucid's supposed to have 25 studio and service centers open by the end of this year. So they're kind of opening at a rapid pace now. I think the Chicago one opened up last week, but it's the first one in New York City. So I went to visit it. It's actually opening tomorrow. This was like a preview before the grand opening that they invited some members of the media to come around. And I was trying to figure out what to do because Kyle just did a great video, which has had like 200,000 views or so far, I think, on Inside EVs about
Is it that many? I haven't even looked.
It's blown up. It's blown up.
Crazy.
So you know, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do the acceleration or like the walk around like what Kyle did. So what I did was I took the approach of I'm gonna talk about the sales procedure. Like I'm a customer going in and I'm interested in this vehicle. So we went in and did a walk around on the showroom. Took a look at what they have on display, the 6 different color options, the 5 different interiors. I did the VR experience, which they're going to have in all their Lucid Studios, where you get to sit in the cutout of the car and kind of look at the different interiors that are offered, and that was pretty cool. It wasn't any special VR experience. It wasn't driving the car or anything like that, but it was cool to see like the different interiors options that you can get. And then I had a talk with Derek Jenkins. Kyle, wasn't Derek the guy that took you for the ride in the car? I think.
Derek took me for a ride. Yeah.
So we did a nice walk around. He's the VP of design at Lucid. We did a nice walk around of the vehicle where he went over all the exterior features and kind of talked about why they did different, have different, exterior, the why it looks like it does, basically. I didn't include this in the video, but I actually got Derek to climb in the trunk of the Lucid, and I put that on a tweet. That was pretty funny. He was a good sport. He fit, and he's a big guy, and he fit. It's a pretty big trunk. It's super wide. That was one of the reason why I asked him to do that was because I think a lot of people. One of the points of the exterior styling that people seem not to like is the trunk. It kind of looks weird back there. It's got this big clamshell where the rear trunk opening closes over the sides of the vehicle.
By far the worst part of the car.
Right. So Kyle's not alone. We've had a lot of people say that. So we talked a little bit about why they did that, and it was to see how wide it is, the trunk. Now, it doesn't have a big, tall opening, though. So if boxes are kind of, tall, they're not going to get in there, but you can fit really wide things, and not have to worry about trying to angle them to get them in because the whole rear part of the car opens up, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of a form following function thing with Lucid. So
sort of form. If they really wanted form, they'd make it a hatchback.
Right, and make it actually a little bit longer too, because that's kind of a short distance from the back of the wheels to the back of the car.
It goes pretty deep. No, it goes pretty deep, more so than you would expect.
Okay.
It's gonna I don't know. I just think that's from a crash perspective. Like you're going to get Camry dings on this thing left and right. For those who don't know what a Camry dent is, look up any Camry from the last 20 years, and the corner of the rear quarter panel is always dented in. This thing. Camry dings are going to be, $5,000 to replace the trunk. So I don't know. I mean, again, that's why I have insurance and it's a Lucid. So who cares? You can afford it. But I don't know. I just think that trunk, everything else about the car, so cool. That trunk is just like you have to start making excuses for it. It's, your back of your car is really ugly. But did you know Derek Jenkins, who is the Lucid's Johnny Ives, can fit in the trunk of this thing? So, great. Totally worth it then.
That seemed to convince me.
So Where in Manhattan is this dealership?
So it's in the meatpacking district, which is like, it's funny how like the city gets revitalized certain areas. I remember when I was in high school, like the meatpacking district was just a terror. Like it was meatpacking district,
Right,
there were
right.
the slaughterhouses and everything, all cobblestone streets. It was like you didn't go in that area. There was no reason to go in that area. But now it's like it's all these, posh cafes and outdoor dining, and they kept the cobblestone streets, so it looks really cool. So the location is really good, right in the middle of that like really up and coming area. But here's the thing about it. So I started talking to them about selling cars there, and they can't. They've come up against that dealer franchise law. So this is just a studio where you can come in and look at the car. They can explain the car to you. They could give you test rides, but they can't say, "Hey, do you want to buy one?"
Can they give you a tablet and say, "So
No.
if you want to buy one, you have to do it on the internet"?
It can't be.
They can't help you.
Okay.
They can say, if you're interested, you can find online. There's how to buy it. So Lucid currently doesn't have an app where you can order the car on your app. They're going to, but right now it's all directly through the website. Yeah, those are the 6 exterior colors. That Zenith red, I love. Kyle and I got to see it about 6 months ago on a car in another Lucid event that we were at in New York City last year, and I just think I thought the Zenith red looked really sweet. I don't know if we talked about that, Kyle. Did you like the Zenith red or?
I'm not a red color guy. I think looked great, fit the aura of the car perfectly. Could totally see that being like the perfect color for that car, especially in the Grand Touring trim, which is that luxury long distance. For me, though, it'd have to be white.
Okay.
I think the car looks good in white.
That red looks kind of candy apple to me. Oh, there's a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought that looked really good. That was an event last year.
So, let's get to the real.
Because that looks a little more burgundy-ish than that little paint sample on the thing. I would expect it to be a little different.
Well, it was weird lighting at this event. So the passenger side of the car will look candy apple red, but the other side was dark. So it has multiple tones based on lighting. And it was lit pretty well. It was cool for our little video because we got to go around. But Tom, what you mentioned at the end of your video, something about delivery timing estimates for these cars.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about that.
When do you think customers will be able to take these? When will we just see one charging at an EA station?
Yeah, I tried to get some more nuggets of that. Nothing solid. It sounds like they're going to start making production candidates really soon, but that they aren't necessarily going to be handing them over to customers, but that they're going to begin to be building the production candidates, and then
I think it's really important.
Yeah, no, I agree. It does, and from what I think by the end of this summer, we're going to have some clarity on that sometime in August, and we might even be invited to an event at some point in that time frame.
Not after you put them in the trunk.
I thought there was I thought Peter Rawlinson said this week they've made their very first production candidate this week, but maybe I'm imagining that. Let me see if I can.
That would align with what I've heard, that the production candidates are being made now, but I don't know if that means they're going to be handing them over to customers yet, Mark, because they'll make a bunch of production cars just to make sure that everything is completely fine-tuned. Lucid, and I've talked to them about this multiple times. I even wrote an article on it like last year. They want to make sure that the cars are bulletproof when they release them. They don't want to have quality control problems that we've heard from the other 800-pound gorilla in the room. But it doesn't hurt that. It doesn't seem to have hurt that other company. But I don't think every company can get away with that, especially a premium brand like Lucid. They're focused on premium and luxury. I think their customers would be a lot less willing to put up with you getting their cars and then having them go back to service centers to fix 4 or 5 different things. So I think they're really, really concerned about that. And that's what they've really conveyed to me over the last 8 months or so, that when we hand this over, it has to be perfect.
They've set the expectation to be so high for these cars. So it needs to be good. I mean, what's going to hurt them the most at this point? Is it a few month delay to production, or is it quality control? Every day that goes by without a Lucid in the hand, helps people, or should say, it dissuades me from having more and more confidence. It's not like we're getting there. It's we're being pushed back. But then if we got cars that weren't totally vetted, that would also lessen confidence in the brand.
I feel like any new car company is going to have issues with their very first production vehicles, and you just handle it as it goes. I think it's more important. It's for me. I want cars on the street. If there's an issue, deal with it nicely. Show them how great you can do customer service, and
But that's the thing. I don't know if they can do customer service great without a service network.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another point. That's a good
point. This is what the press release, what he said, what Peter Rawlinson said. Okay. We achieved a landmark last Friday when we started building our quality validation production run of cars. Okay. So that's not a production run. That is just they're still doing quality validation builds, so they won't go to customers. So
yeah, those cars may end up as test drive cars or media vehicles or advertising marketing cars that are near as makes no difference a production version, but will never be sold and eventually crushed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the intent is to make them perfect, as if they were making them for customers, but they realize there's going to be little glitches, and then after they make a run of these cars, they'll look back and say, okay, this has to be corrected before we hand them over. Right. This should be that final step of testing. So, I would certainly, personally, I expect somewhere around the September timeframe to be close to when we might start seeing handovers.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be great.
I mean, that's just my feeling. I'm not saying that I have any information from.
Let's talk about your drive. What was it like riding in the car in the city? One thing I'm very curious about right off the bat was, did you feel any motor cogging at low speed? Because I felt quite a bit of it on my drive. They claimed that was going to be all software tuned out by the end of the week. I'm just curious if this car was fixed.
So the funny thing is, I didn't feel that, but most of the time we were riding on cobblestones. So
you wouldn't even know.
Already. So, but we did get a chance to get it out on the West Side Highway and do a couple of juice it a few times just to feel the acceleration. Of course, no speed limits were broken. It pulls as I would expect it to pull. It's pretty crazy, but we get used to that when we're driving like the fastest Teslas and so forth in the Taycan, but it's right up there how it pulls. And this is the Grand Touring that has 800 horsepower. It's not the Dream Edition that has the 1,080 horsepower. So it's even which they're only making about 600 of the Dream Editions. And then that's it for the 1,080 horsepower. So
they'll figure out another way to make the 1,080.
Probably well, the tri-motor, which I tried to get information on, the tri-motor Lucid ran a 9.245 quarter mile last year. That's on the video. That's they're still aiming, I think, for some point at 2022 to release that. So that's still being developed. It's still in the works. And one of the things I was amazed at is, and I know we talked about this a while ago, was I don't know if Martin could pull up my video again. The size of Lucid's motor is so compact. It looks like I could pick it up with one hand. It's as big as like a large toaster, and it offers 650 horsepower.
So smaller than a watermelon thing.
I'll show you.
It's like the size of a watermelon. And
just for a moment though, there's something on top of it that shouldn't be on top of it. Right. Just to say,
I had to make a correction, Martin. So you see on top of the power electronics where that orange cable is, there's two blowers. They're like air conditioned blowers, and they were just resting on it. And during the day, I saw people like lift them up and take them off. So I'm like, that's so weird. Like I've seen the Lucid chassis before, but I've never seen that there. So that's actually where they're going to be. They're not secured. They had been located right behind the dashboard, but recently Lucid made a change, which is kind of a little strange to me, close to delivery, but they relocated those. They took them out from right behind the dashboard because they were making too much noise. They said that they weren't happy with the noise they were making, and that's where they relocated them. So they just sat them there. They're kind of right in that location. They wanted to show somebody where the blower motors were relocated. So that's where they're actually going to be sitting. But at first I was like, why are these things here? Because they're not attached to anything. They're just kind of resting on top of the power electronics.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the inverter below them?
Yeah, no, the Wonder Box, which I thought
It's
that was
behind.
at first, is behind. Martin's got it. It's right there. Yeah.
Behind,
And
yeah.
I actually shot the video already, and then I realized it. So I in the video, I stop it and I point to there, and I'm like, no, that's where the Wonder Box is. And I'm actually setting up an interview with Lucid, just a deep dive in the Wonder Box. So I'm going to be doing that at some point in the next month or so. We're going to talk about why Lucid feels like it's the greatest onboard charging system out there, and I'll give them a chance to explain that to me. We'll see if we agree. So we're gonna do a deep dive into the Lucid Wonder Box.
Are you going to do that with Eric Bach?
Probably Eric, yeah. At least
Yeah.
Eric, maybe somebody else also, but Eric would definitely have to be part of that. That's his baby,
I know. That's why I was excited. I hope
Yeah.
you can get Eric to do it because
that's what we talked about. But let's see what we could set up. But yeah, Martin, I mean there's one of the motors down there. That's the front motor, but there's a better part of this video where I actually go and put my hand right up against one that's on display. That's the battery modules there. And they use the 2170 cylindrical cells. Now, also, Lucid is the sole battery designer and supplier for Formula E racing. All the Formula E cars use Lucid technology in their cars. Now,
is it not branded Lucid or is it Ativa?
No.
It's
Ativa.
Yeah, I forget the name. What is it?
Ativa
or something like that. Yeah, but that's a Lucid company. I mean,
Right.
Well, that's what they were before they became Lucid.
Yeah.
So there's Tom's beefy hands,
Yeah.
and the motor's small.
Oh, dare you.
You see that? I mean, that's 650 horsepower.
That's crazy.
Insane.
It's crazy, right? And that's why when they do the tri motor, they just pop two of those things right next to each other, right in the rear axle,
Right.
and it works.
I like to see that. I like to see one of those that are like right next to a Tesla Plaid motor, just to see how close they are together now. Because
I'd like to
the Tesla
put one of
motor's
those
been
in a
redone
smart
too.
car.
Yeah. Actually, we'll see a Tesla Plaid motors. I believe. What's his name? He ordered one to tear down Monroe.
No, hold on. We
No?
have to bring up something here.
Okay.
He sold stickers to pay for his Model S Plaid. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I watched the video.
This is insane to me. What do you all think? I think it's the craziest thing.
I mean, if you can get people to buy
this to
stickers
me
and buy
reduces legitimacy massively, and not to take away from what Monroe does. I know we've done pieces on him, and I'm sure he's great at manufacturing, but this is a professional organization that's selling stickers to buy a car.
I mean, offset.
It's
It's not going to
funny.
pay for the whole car. It's like a massively expensive endeavor because it's not just the cost is not just the.
So you
buying
don't
the
think
car,
he
it's
has
just
the
part of the
clients
cost.
to back up what he needs to do that'll buy the stuff from him?
I don't know if those clients aren't going to pay him up front, and I don't know what his cash flow is like or whatever. But I don't know.
To me, it just seems like a big red flag as to how is this company making money if they can't just go, oh, we'll just tear down a Plaid and then sell all the stuff later and have the confidence that they can make money on that car.
But I mean, like they can pay like $100,000 for the car, but then there's like I forget what I would think it was in the millions of how much it costs to do the actual tear down. So it's
I'm sure it's astronomical, and I'm so excited to see it. I love the videos that they produce. Nothing against their work, just to me, again, this just seemed like a giant red flag. Like we should probably talk about this.
Yeah, I thought the same in terms of they make these reports that are tens of thousands of pages long, not just on
hundreds
cars,
of thousands of dollars.
Right? So they are a completely professional organization.
Right.
And then kind of out of nowhere, Sandy's almost like begging for money. Like,
it's like, who's this guy on the side of the road who needs $5 to feed his dog?
Yeah.
I'm like, can I just get you dog food instead of the money?
He doesn't need it.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need the money. Well, maybe he does need the money. Maybe, I don't know. But it's like, it was the weirdest thing for an outfit that's that professional and that sort of kind of slick. Has a whole team of people that'll turn on every nut and bolt and washer of a car. And he's like, buy our bumper stickers. And it's as bad as Ferrari sticking their logo on a lunchbox and a key ring. And, and trying to flog whatever, just stick a logo on it and get some money in. I just thought it was a weird merchandising thing to do.
Yeah, maybe it makes sense from a business perspective, but it left me with a bad taste, and maybe some other people, probably not, because I'm usually wrong. Tom, what's your take?
It doesn't bother me. I think you make money any way you can. I mean, Ferrari did put their logo on the lunch boxes and the keychains, Martin, and that's Ferrari. You know,
they're making money. They're making money.
Honestly, it really doesn't bother me. You know, I think personally, I think Sandy's getting a kick out of this new fame because, you know, he'd been doing this for a long time and nobody knew who he was. Now all of a sudden he's a celebrity. So like, why not? You know, I'm sure he has advisors saying, you know what, this might not last forever. You're super hot now. Everybody loves you. Sell whatever you can. Sell pieces of your office. That doesn't bother me. I never, if somebody's trying to make a buck, that never, you know, it doesn't bother me personally.
It's like it was a wholesale operation for like a long time, and now they're delving into retail. You know, they have a retail audience on the YouTube channel. They're making, you know, a bit of income there, and it helped them get them through the COVID situation, which, you know, was difficult for everybody.
Yeah. So, and did you see that he just put? I might even actually repost this on Inside EVs. But did you see yesterday? E for Electric interviewed Sandy. And he has like a monthly spot on his show. Okay. And Sandy said that he thinks Toyota should actually concentrate on hydrogen now.
Wow.
From a technical standpoint or from a practical
business for business. He thinks it would be the best business move. And there's this company, this like upstart company that supposedly just patented some kind of new way to store hydrogen on discs. They almost look like CDs, and you like pop them into the thing that actually, you know, converts them, you know, back to usable hydrogen. And Sandy was like, really, you know, it was like that if Toyota had half a brain, they would go buy this company up tomorrow, and that would be their competitive edge and everything. It was kind of weird hearing him really say, look, you know, I think if Toyota wants to compete, they should go down the hydrogen road. So it's an interesting video.
Yeah, I would disagree, but. Hey, so do we want to talk about something else now?
Yes, because this is all weird.
Okay, so we really like the Audi e-tron. It first started production in September of 2018, and it's made its reputation as a solid, quiet luxury EV. It's not perfect. It's got 222 miles of EPA range, which is a bit on the low side for a car that starts at 65.9. But it's relatively quick charging, so that makes up for some of that, of course. But if you want the best of both worlds, really great range, really great charging, you'll be able to get that in a refreshed Audi e-tron in about a year from now. So according to Autocar, that's a UK publication, the e-tron is getting a number of improvements besides a refreshed fascia and probably the rear as well, be redone. It's getting a new generation of battery, more efficient electric motors, and upgraded electronics, which they say will offer more energy recuperation from regen braking. That combination of goodies is said to give it a WLTP range of 373 miles, which is crazy good improvement over what they have now. I imagine that would be around, I don't know, 320 miles of EPA range, maybe more. I don't know. You can tell me what you think. Of course, this all applies to the e-tron Sportback as well. That's the coupe-ish version of the car. And that just came out a little while ago, so it's getting refreshed like really fast. Like the mid-cycle, they call these, like usually we call these like a mid-cycle refresh, but this is pretty early in the cycle for that one. These improvements should help it stay competitive, and Audi plans to produce this version of the car until 2025. So Kyle, what excites you the most about this development?
Oh, I'm so excited for this. And we were talking about this on the pre-show before we went live, because it just means that Tom and I and Martin and Dominic, we can all get our 2020 or 2019 e-trons for like 35 grand with massaging seats and really good charging. It's all the car you need, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I can get to the beach and back with 200 miles.
Yeah, and I think in our highway 70 mile an hour tested like 190, which isn't bad, or 195. It was very close to 200 at 70 miles an hour, which is impressive. A big percentage of that EPA range used able to travel at highway speeds. The DC fast charging is just the most insane thing. One of the guys who works for me drives an e-tron. He just leased one, and I think I forget what he leased it for, but it was like $399 a month or something, really, really inexpensive for the price of the car. And he's been road tripping it everywhere, driving it around. It's been awesome. I think they took it on a trip from Raleigh, North Carolina down to Hilton Head and back, or Charleston, can't remember. But they were like, DC fast charging. You're like, well, we're just going to charge it to 100% because it doesn't matter. That time from 80 to 100% is like 8 minutes or something crazy.
Really?
Yeah, because it's still doing 55 kilowatts at 99%. It just rips.
Wow.
So
because the top end is usually slow. That's I never.
Yeah, but there's a big buffer.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
so
got
it's not really
good
kilowatt-hour battery or something.
Yeah, but Volkswagen Group products in general don't like do the Tesla thing where they taper down to 1 kilowatt, where they're just squeezing every last inch out of it. They just shut off. So they just charge, and then stop. And look, I think some people are saying they're holding value better than they should. Agreed. But that's the used car market in general right now. Yeah. And you used to be able to buy an e-tron Prestige. Tom and I were talking for $49,000 to $51,000 on the very low end of the market. 30, 40,000 miles, maybe 20 to 40,000 miles. Now you're in the mid to high 50s for that same exact car. So it would have been a smart decision to buy one a long time ago. And I think it's a great car. It's so comfortable to drive, so solid, great seats. It just feels nice to drive a very heavy air suspensioned vehicle that just squishes everything out of the way. You flatten speed bumps, and just is a great cruiser. It's awesome.
Yep. You have a good connection to Audi?
I have a really good friend that works at Audi PR.
So tell them, send me a car, man. I need to
so they do have e-trons in the media fleet. I think there's like one in New York and one in LA.
Yeah, that's the problem with living in Tallahassee, Florida, man. There's no fleets around here, media fleets to get cars from. It's
and traditionally Audi has always run a thin fleet. They did not go the approach of Toyota where Toyota keeps like one of everything in every market, which is why we do a lot of Toyotas. Audi will send a car here or there for a specific use case, kind of like Porsche, and come back. So like we have an Audi SQ5 coming to our region, which is the perfect Colorado car. And that will come at some point. We'll have it for a bit, but it won't stick around long. They'll move it around. They run a thin fleet.
And plus, it's been out for 3 years now, so there's always a bunch of cars in the media fleets when they're getting released, and then they thin out the herd. So it's I've even had problems if I ask for a car after it's been out for a year and a half, like it's like, oh yeah, no, but it's not available anymore. Right. So I can understand why they don't have many of them now.
So, Tom, remember your i3? They had to steal it from an executive to get you a new i3.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, well, the i3 in general, they just stopped shipping a lot of them to the U.S. It's basically like special order. So when we requested one, it was like, but one of the managers up here at Woodcliff Lake has his personal vehicle. You could use that if you'd like. Yeah, sure.
I was just going to ask. So how do you think they're getting all this? Because that's a lot of range difference. How they're getting like 100 and over 120 miles more range, a bigger battery, or just like better efficiency, or
it's got to be a bigger battery. I mean, they could have improved powertrain efficiency. I'm sure they have. I mean, I think every manufacturer is working on that now, because I mean, that's one of the things that Tesla and Hyundai have just dominated in is that efficiency. But I'm sure it's going to be more efficient, but it's got to have a bigger pack.
Do you know if off the top of your head whether their electronics use silicon carbide components or not?
No, I don't know that.
Okay, because those are
I wonder if they're going to put the Taycan drivetrain in the e-tron full size.
No.
That's an efficient drivetrain. People don't believe me. It is. And it's the same thing that's in the e-tron GT. So why wouldn't you just put it in the full size?
I wouldn't be surprised if they use those motors, but not with a 2-speed transmission.
Oh, sure. Well, I think, so there's something also that we're forgetting here. There's a tri-motor e-tron already on sale. and that you can buy one. It's just only in Europe. It's the
Right.
e-tron S. And 3-motor production SUV ripping around, doing Nürburgring laps. So they already have a good drivetrain in that thing. I wish they brought it here. No one would buy one, but it would be really cool at least.
Yeah, they're going to have the Q6 e-tron coming out next year, which is on the same platform as the new Porsche Macan, electric Porsche Macan size, which is a bit smaller. I think it's like a Q5 size, where the e-tron now is just a bit smaller than the Q8, I believe.
Q5 and Macan share a chassis, and
Right.
so Q5e or Q4 e-tron, no, Q6 e-tron and Macan will probably share the same chassis as well.
Right. They're both on the
And
new
do the same thing
PPE.
as ID4 and Q4 e-tron.
Mhm.
Audi sits in the middle of VW and Porsche, so they get to
Right.
steal. They get to pull up from Volkswagen and pull down from Porsche.
Right. It's a pretty good place to be at. Hey, speaking of Audi e-trons and stuff, I believe you had a friend that saw one this week or something charging up.
So I have my friend who works for Porsche as a trainer, really awesome guy, helped develop that Taycan training situation that has been going on, which is something I want to touch on as well briefly. There is a countrywide sales training process for Taycan, which is Tom may have had some influence on this. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But basically, every single salesperson from Porsche is required to go to a special location, whether it's the Atlanta Porsche Experience Center or a particular track or something, where they have Model S and Taycan, and they show the strengths and weaknesses of both. But most importantly, they train the sales staff on kilowatts versus kilowatt hours, charging times, how to do route planning. They make every single person initiate a charging session with a Taycan on Electrify America, which is just way more effort than we've seen from any other OEM. Think about this. Porsche is, their salespeople, to sell a Porsche in the first hand, it's not like your traditional car salesman. You're operating at top level being a Porsche salesman.
Yeah.
So these guys are industry experts, enthusiasts for the most part, and they want to know about the cars. And so Porsche has a great training division that will support them, literally flying them around the country to literally just learn about the Taycan and charge and all this stuff. And I think it's a great initiative, and they should be totally credited for it. But one of my friends, Brendan, who put together this program, found a Q4 e-tron and found it charging. It was at 50, found it charging at an EA station. Can't pull up any pictures. I don't have them on my phone. But
Okay.
it was pretty cool and looked good, and it's here in the U.S. And it was parked next to his Mamba Green Taycan 4S, which is a great spec.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Hey.
1 second, Tom, before I cut in. One of the things that Kyle said was that no other car company has done this. There has been an exception, Kyle, BMW. Back when the i3 came out, BMW had regional training, and they did just this. And they flew.
I remember.
It cost them tens of millions of dollars. And they flew. They actually asked me to participate in that training. I was the only person outside of BMW that was at these training. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I
There we
see
go.
that the e-tron. And so they actually did this, where they did the same thing. They flew people to these regional training centers. They made them drive the cars. They had every EV available at the time when the i3 launched. Maybe not everyone, but they had Tesla Model S. They had Nissan Leaf. They had the Chevy Volt. Everything that was available in 2014. And every salesperson had to drive every car on this like slalom course, and then drive the i3 and the i8. And then they talked about the differences and what the advantages were. So BMW actually, back when they were kind of serious about EVs, I guess they're re-engaging now. In 2013, 2014, they made a tremendous effort, and they deserve credit. And that's actually being part of that training system is what inspired me to start training dealers after that, because I saw how amazing it worked, how the people coming in were like, how are we going to sell these? Nobody wants electric cars. These things are POSs and blah, 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 blah. And then as everybody was like carrying their bags back to the airport, they're like, yeah, I get it. Like these things work. Like this is a great car. We could sell these. And that's what I get when I do this regional training stuff. And it's interesting, Kyle. I just yesterday got hired by a Porsche dealership
Awesome.
to go train them, and I'm thinking it's kind of weird because I thought maybe at least for a little while that's not going to happen because Porsche's doing their in-house training.
Right.
Maybe I'll do like a refresher course or something like that afterwards. But I thought it was interesting that a dealership up in Massachusetts just reached out and paid to do in-person dealer training. I'm going to be heading up there in a week or so.
Awesome.
But
awesome.
This is so necessary. We can't overestimate how important it is for the sales staff to understand these cars, to be able to sell them. I've said it a million times. The dealerships don't hate electric cars. Everybody thinks that they don't want to sell them. They don't have them. They just don't understand them. And if you don't understand something, it gets brushed to the side. They'll sell you anything you want to sell, a hydrogen car, a car that runs on water. As long as they can make money. That's what they do. That's how they put bread on the table. They don't hate electric cars. They hate things they don't understand. And if we elevate their level of education, we make them use DC fast chargers, we give them the car and we say, you take this home for the weekend so you can plug it in at home and then use a public charger, come back. That's how you're going to get dealerships to be more interested in selling the plug-in vehicles that they have. And it's happening. We're at such a better place than what we were 2 or 3 years ago.
That's for sure.
Totally agree. I remember that program training. They even had specific BMW i salespeople at certain bigger stores that only handled EV stuff. Yeah. At least when I worked for BMW in Canada.
You had to have 2 people that were certified as i salespeople, or you couldn't sell the cars.
Oh, so so certified I understood, but there were I forget, it was BMW Toronto. It was one of the biggest stores in Canada when I was working for BMW in Canada. They had a specific i salesman that would only deal with EVs. Yeah. And that was pretty cool.
Hey, while we're talking about Audi, well, we kind of moved on from that, but we were just talking about Audi.
One last thing about BMW. Can we knock their marketing department for fun just for 2 seconds?
Oh, sure.
Because they ran an iX Twitter ad that said 0 to 100%. You're the one who shared it. It was 0 to 100% in 11 hours.
Oh my God.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, and that reminded me. So I looked at the iX, because I like the way, it's kind of a chunky looking little beast, and I kind of like the way it looks. It's got the big grill, but whatever. And it looks like a great car, but why would you talk about 11 hours to charge? But then I looked at the fast charging time, and it reminded me, it's like 40 minutes to charge from 0 to 80 or something %.
Yeah, which isn't terrible for that big of a pack, to be honest. But the whole let's just 11 hours at 11 kilowatts.
Right. Oh yeah, that's ridiculous. Why would you talk that up?
I can come up with anything. It could be 24 hours at 6 kilowatts. Like, wow, what are we doing here?
For most people, at 11 kilowatts, you're going to charge maybe less than 2 hours. I figured it out. For like your daily driving needs, if you
no
want
one
to charge
charges
every
0
day,
to 100%.
Yeah,
right.
Except you and me, Kyle.
Well, just for testing, but even in practical use, I never do that.
100%. That's a terrible. It reminds me of when Ford first released the Ford Focus EV. On their Ford Focus website, when you went to the Ford Focus website, it said Ford Focus starting at $19,995, and then right next to it said Ford Focus Electric, which looked exactly the same. They just used a different color, and they said starting at like $38,995.
Yeah,
and it was the same car, but it would cost twice as much. And it was like, seriously, that's your best foot forward.
Well, they didn't want to sell any of those.
This is not BMW, and BMW does want to sell these, but BMW, that is not your best foot forward.
No, it looks great,
they haven't been putting their best foot forward in their Twitter department and video department for the last 2 years now. Really bad, actually. Let's move on.
Okay. No. Before you move on, I got a press release. I got sent a press release this week from unnamed major car company, but major car company, US major car company, and they said that the battery had 75 kW/h of power.
So amazing!
So I replied back and said, "Thanks for the press release. Whoever wrote it, firstly, I'm not being a pedant, but you just don't write KW/H. It's just KWH with W as a capital. And also, the car doesn't have 75 kilowatt hours of power. It has that much stored energy, but the motors are 125 kilowatts of power. And the PR department wrote back and said, "Thank you, we forwarded it on." And it's like,
power
come on,
things. Come on, people. Yeah.
It's so often, and just it's out there. Even in major publications, people are starting to get this stuff now that they're branching into EVs. Just totally wrong.
And sometimes we'll make a mistake when we're writing an article. Sometimes I made a little correction this week on somebody's post, not mine or not Tom's either. And they had put kilowatt hours, I think, when they meant to say kilowatts. It's just something that we all do. I think I've done it before, actually, in the past. I know I have. So
look, we're not perfect, but I think just a fundamental understanding of the difference is necessary to be in this job. Just from a journalist perspective as well, I'm in a group with a whole bunch of other automotive journalists, and there was recently a poll in this group that asked, who is comfortable with charging and who has home charging available to it. And it's like, at this point, if you consider yourself to be an automotive expert, you don't have to like EVs. You can knock them all you want, but you need to understand them. I mean, it's a necessity at this point. And 80%, 70% probably have no clue kilowatt versus kilowatt hour. Not to knock all of my colleagues, but it's just, come on.
I've actually helped maybe 4 or 5 established automotive journalists that I know that are better journalists than I am, have been out there for many, many years. Years ago, get chargers because they saw this coming, and they were like, I know I'm going to be testing more and more of these, so let me get home charging at home. Tom, what do you recommend? Can you help me get this done? So over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, I know some of the people in that group, Kyle, that were forward thinking, that were like, hey, help me get this sorted out before it becomes a thing. And so the smart ones did it and got charging installed at their house. So whenever a media loan came, they wouldn't be fumbling with the cord that they get. And, some of them are 120 volt and, have to deal with figuring out how to charge. So good on those guys.
People wonder why there's no EVs in the media fleets anywhere in the country, or very few, I should say. There are some. But why don't you see much coverage on EVs and reviews? It's because every review turns into a charging review. I had an issue charging here, or here's how I charged this car, or let me take it on a road trip, which I do all the time, right? But I'm getting into the nitty gritty, but it's like everyone's first experience in EVs. How many times do you need to read this stuff? Let's just get to evaluating the cars. And there are a few outlets that do a great job at just evaluating EVs. I think notably, actually, our friends down the road in Boulder, TFL, they've been doing this whole cheap EV series. They just bought a Spark Electric, which is awesome. And I actually think they're on a Taycan road trip. I saw it come across my feed right now. So I think they're honestly one of the leading examples of bridging that gap from combustion to electric. I think Motor Trend's doing a great job as well. It's possible, but it's just for a lot of people, they just don't want to educate themselves.
Right. Hey, so I just want to mention while we were talking about Audi that they mentioned this week that they won't be producing any new internal combustion models after 2026, but that doesn't mean it won't sell any ICE. It just won't be
it's
introducing
7 years after 2026.
Right. It won't be introducing any new ICE models after that, but they will be selling them. And I think we had a story out this morning. Audi will go electric from 2033 on, but for some reason not in China, which makes no sense to me. I mean, of all the places that you're going to go all electric, China would, especially in 2033. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
Isn't Volkswagen having some trouble with China right now?
They sold 1,200 ID4s in the month of May. Bearing in mind, there's 2 ID4s. There's the ID4X and the ID4 Cross. One of them made by a joint venture with FAW, one with SAIC, I think. And so, but that's combined. They did 1,200.
Really?
That's kind of low sales, yeah.
Well, they wanted to make 50 to 60,000 was the annual run rate out of those factories. The factories are running at 10%. And they're putting a brave face on it, saying it's ramping up. It was never going to start strong, but that is, you can't really brush that one away. That
are they sitting on the lots, or are they all going to deliveries?
They're not being ordered.
So no one's even asking for them.
No, they're not being ordered.
Do you think it's a demand problem?
The article that I read, maybe it was South China Morning Post. So it was Chinese media that were reporting. It was saying that in talking to potential buyers about the ID4 in China, what a lot of Chinese buyers want is a highly tech advanced EV, which we've talked about before. We know on this podcast. Right. So they either want a lot of autonomous features like Tesla,
right,
or they want a lot of smart features like some of the
Neo or Xiaopeng.
Yeah, like a local Chinese brand that has got
or really cheap like the other.
Yeah, but integration with the voice assistant that you use at home is also in the car, and also it great voice activation in the car. Anything that's super high tech is in demand in China in terms of EVs, and of course the ID4, as we've talked about, is a really, really solid electric car. Great battery, great architecture, great platform.
But it doesn't move the needle from the tech standpoint.
So even though it's a rock solid car, it doesn't actually tick some of the boxes. It hasn't got the advanced autonomy that their competitors have got, and it hasn't got the uber smarts that their Chinese competitors have got, and it kind of falls somewhere in the middle, and at the minute they're not selling any. So a bit of a difficult month of May. Well, a really difficult month of May.
Well, they'll have to take another look at their pricing then. I think that's where you have to compete when you don't have the advanced tech. You have to go for value.
I don't know. Do you think that's the move though? I think in China it is all flash. It's all about showing off your coolest stuff. Price probably doesn't play as big of a factor. I think when everyone's financing them, and I don't know how in China they're doing leases or monthly, whatever it is. The difference between $399 a month to drive a Volkswagen ID4 in their eyes, or $499 a month. I'm making these numbers up to drive, maybe a Neo or a Tesla. This is probably worth the extra cash for them. I think they use their disposable incomes in different ways than Americans do.
A couple of years ago, when I spoke to someone from a Chinese automaker, I think they told me the way they finance it is more akin to personal loan. So not secured against the vehicle, not leasing, not a contract plan, but people tend to take out a fixed 2, 3, 5 year personal loan, and then they repay the loan. So that tends to be the most common way of. It was a couple of years ago when I spoke to this person, maybe just for their
totally
brand.
Different than everywhere else. That's wild.
Yeah. He was making the point. It's a very different market. It's high tech. The financing's different. It's very different.
Yeah.
So when Ford first introduced us to the Mach-E GT and GT Performance versions of its of the new Mustang around the end of April, the estimated ranges were somewhat disappointing at 250 miles. That's 402 kilometers. And 230 miles, 370 kilometers, respectively. So it comes to this great news then that the actual EPA range for these two trims just released is significantly better. So now the Mustang Mach-E GT will see 270 miles of EPA range. That's 434 kilometers. That's 20 miles or 8% more, I believe. And the GT Performance is going to get 260 miles of EPA range, 25 miles more or 10% more. What's going on, Tom?
Well, I don't buy that. Ford is surprised that
totally agree. This is not news to them.
I'm surprised because those are kind of crazy low numbers at first.
Ford's done this ever since the Mach-E originally got announced. They hold back and hold back and hold back, and then you find out, you learn more, and that might be what's going on with the F-150 Lightning, which we talked about a few weeks ago. How the range was 300 miles, but then there was a YouTuber that came out and was like, "Oh no, that range was 300 miles with 1,500 pounds of cargo." So which hasn't been really confirmed yet.
I think he's wrong, but
well, I saw two other articles where Ford representatives alluded to that. I can't pull them up right now, but I saw them. So I Ford's notorious for this. So it's not like, oh wow, look at this. Now we squeezed out an extra 10 miles. I think it's great news. Good for Ford. Good for the
20
GT.
Miles.
What's that?
20 miles.
20 miles. Okay, I forget exactly what it was, what the numbers were. I mean, it's fantastic, but I don't buy for 1 second that they didn't have all this testing done and knew about this, 8 months ago. So, but good on them. And the G, I can't wait to get a hold of one of these. The GT's a performance version. I mean, Kyle's probably chomping at the bit more than I am, even. But they're good vehicles. The charging needs to be improved. There's some other things that they can do. I mean, it's certainly not a perfect EV, but first vehicle coming out of the box, that's their first serious attempt. I think their customers are happy. I mean, I'm on all the Mach-E forums. People love them. So I'm sure they're going to love the GT and the GT performance. And now they're not sacrificing that much range, which is what, we had thought was going to be the case. And would people go for this if they're paying more and they get 20 miles less of range? But evidently that won't be the issue.
Yeah, this is not news to Ford, like Tom said. This is twofold a good thing. One, they're getting another over deliver story here. Yeah. And this is a big one because everyone's concerned about range. But this also allowed them to sell the product that they could sell for the longest amount of time. I am sure there are people, I don't know how many, that said, I'm not going to get a Mach-E GT because I need the range. Right. And they ended up buying the product that they could sell them at the time, which is a great thing for Ford. The owner got stuck with a great car. The Mach-E is a really good car. And I should mention, I've been driving one for over a month. I don't think I talk about it a lot, but it's here. It's in the driveway. I have a white California Route 1 that somehow they haven't asked for it back yet. And I just have one. So it's been here and been driving it a lot and going to road trip it out to LA and probably drop it off in LA next week, and took it all around. We've been using it a ton. And it's really good.
Did you do your 70-mile-an-hour road test on?
It hasn't gone live yet.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that maybe next week.
Close to 300 miles, but not quite, which is pretty good. Yeah, really good range. I was impressed.
EPA range is like 300 miles, right, on that?
Yeah, EPA's 300. It was a big percentage of EPA. It was not that different, though, from the all-wheel drive range test. And I think Tom and I had totally different variations. I did it on a very hot day. Either way, it still went farther as expected, but not as much farther as we thought, the rear-wheel drive. But again, if we ran both on the same day in the same environment, it probably would have gone even farther. Yeah, good car, but there are some really big issues here. This charging curve sucks. I don't know why that's still not fixed. That needs to be fixed immediately. Secondly, and I get very frustrated driving this car around, and I finally figured out why. There is a lag, and I have always complained about the brake pedal in Mach-E, and it's just kind of way too jabby, and it's not as resistant or as immediate as I would like, and that's the problem. You hit the brake pedal, and the normal person may not pick up on this, but you can tell that it's a signal that's being sent to somewhere else that is then processing, which is then controlling regenerative braking or friction braking. And this half a second lag, or it's probably quicker than half a second, drives me nuts on this car. I hit the brakes and it's just like, there's not enough. And then I'm like, oh, I'm in ABS. And then one pedal driving is even arguably worse, I would say. It's the only EV I don't use one pedal driving in, because you hit the throttle and there's a tiny bit of lag, and you lift off and there's a tiny bit of lag. And then you lift off, and because there's a tiny bit of lag, you end up touching the brake pedal before it can ramp up full regen, and then it gives you full regen and friction brakes at the same time. And so this whole driving the Mach-E thing really bugs me. Now, other people who aren't thinking about it, that just get in and drive it, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, it drives me nuts.
So I'm not sure how big a surprise this is, because I just think it's a weird strategy to, bring your car out and, talk it up in April, which is a couple months ago, and say, 230 miles of range, and all of a sudden it's 260 or 270 miles. I mean, that's a lot of difference in, a short period of time.
Think about how many orders they were able to sell of Mach-E 4Xs instead of GTs by doing that, right? And it's a good story. It all looks good on Ford, and it is good, but yeah.
Okay.
And someone just commented they've never experienced what I've had, but it might be the car. Well, I've experienced it in 5 different Mach-Es now, and maybe it's the software version. But try this. If you own a Mach-E, just drive down, stab the brake pedal really quick and let up. It won't do a thing.
Okay.
Just knock it, and there's zero response. But if you knock and hold for just a little bit, then of course it breaks like a normal car, and it's not a dangerous thing at all. There's no safety related issue here. This is, a lot of cars have a little bit of input lag from here or there. It's just kind of borderline for me to get annoyed with it. And same with the accelerator. If you wobble the accelerator like this, again, nothing will happen.
And everybody has to realize Kyle is much more in tune with the vehicle response than most and all of us here on the podcast. It's his specialty. I mean, he lived on a track for a while. He can pull out things of the driving experience that we don't even realize. So, something that might be a niggle for him and really bother him, you and I would drive the car and would be like, what are you talking about? And
it doesn't affect your normal person.
3 or 4 times before we even realized it. And, it's just because this is what he does. All Kyle does is drive cars and try to analyze, how the suspension is set up and how the chassis is. So, what really becomes a big issue for him might not be a huge issue for a lot of people, but that doesn't mean it's not there because, if he experienced it on multiple cars, I bet you he can grab your car and say, look, this is what I'm talking about. But it doesn't mean it's not.
Maybe it's
maybe not.
Thing.
Yeah,
exactly. Not to discount them. Their car might be perfect. I don't know. It's just in my experience, in the cars I have driven on whatever software version they've been on, there's this annoying little lag in it. Like I said, not dangerous. It's just, it gets to me, and that's what I don't like. And also there's a bit of elasticity in the steering rack when you're right on the limit. And over rotation, but the car doesn't let you actually slide. For being a Mustang, I evaluate it more in the performance side of things than the comfort side of things. And that's where it falls apart, is when you actually start pushing it. The GT though, should be pretty spicy. And Ford PR people, our friends over there, they've been talking this thing up. So we're going to for sure get it out on track and do some big skids. Although, have you noticed how in that cover photo we keep using of the Mach-E GT, that orange one that's turning and it's got tire smoke?
Yeah.
I think it's just inside rear wheel tire smoke. I don't think it's actually getting the power over to the outside wheel. I zoomed in on it. You can see a little bit, but it looks like they were attempting to drift, and in no possible way is that car allowing it to step the back out.
Right. Yeah, no, it's just slid over somehow. Yeah.
It's just doing a one tire fire on the inside rear.
One tire fire. All right.
Yeah, the one wheel peel.
Oh man. My first car was a Ford Granada, like a 1976 something with a 302 and a 4-speed, and that's what it would do. The one wheel forever.
The one wheel peel.
I had something very similar to you, Dom. I had a 77 Plymouth Volare, which was similar to the Granada, and cool. We'd do the same thing with straight six. That was that was crazy. But Dom, before I know we're getting up against the end, before you cut us off, I just want to get one plug in. I'm going to have a video posted probably today, if not tomorrow morning, up on Inside EVs. A few weeks ago, I did the V3 supercharger test on my 2021 Model 3, 0 to 100%. Last week, I did it on a V2. So I have all the data from both. I've got both recordings side by side going, where they both start at 0, a deep dive analysis. I've got charts. I've got graphs. That video is coming up today. I think you're going to be surprised, or some people are going to be surprised at what the results was. And we should have that up. The supercharger showdown should be up on Inside EVs today or tomorrow. And check it out. I think it's interesting. Yeah.
Awesome.
Did the thermal throttle from handle temp, did you have to put a wet rag around the handle? On the V2?
Well, on the V2? No, I didn't. Yeah. And I went and I got out a few times and kept checking it. And it didn't. On the V2 a little hit. It never pulled 150. It hit 143 and held that for pretty long. So I don't think that was happening. And I kept going out and checking it. I parked at the end stall, and it was a big tree over us. So the car was sitting in the shade, so the sun wasn't beating down on it. The sun really makes a big difference on those connectors. So you're not getting heat from the outside and the inside. If the cable, if there's a nice cool breeze and it's in the shade, you should be okay. But I don't think that was a problem. And from the results of this test, you would have thought maybe there was a problem with the V3, not the V2. But I don't think there's a
I
problem
would
in
expect
either
that.
one.
V3 is not much faster than V2 because you can only take advantage for like 15 or 20% of your charging session.
Yeah, about that. So it's a good side by side comparison. It's good for Model 3 owners to look at if you're deciding the end result basically is don't go out of your way to find a V3 charging station. If it's there, use it, but don't drive an extra 5 miles to get to.
Well,
a
that's
V3.
on the current charging profile.
Yeah, on the current charging profile.
If they change the profile with Model S Plaid potentially charging faster, deeper into the pack, that's Tom says that with an asterisk.
Yeah, and right now for the Model 3 and Model Y, this doesn't apply to obviously Model S or Model S Plaid. But check out that video; it's coming up really soon. I think it's going to be a entertaining video for you.
I'm excited.
So about that Model S Plaid charging curve, I'm not sure if we can see it here. Yes.
Yeah.
So we just had a story on this. So Motor Trend did a charging session with the Model S Plaid at a V3 station, I believe. And so you can see it there. It charges right up against the 250 for between 5% to 30%. It looks like,
which isn't that dissimilar from a Model 3, to be honest.
So, but
it's longer though. Mine didn't charge that long.
Because it's a bigger pack, so it can hold a higher C rate.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or it's the same C rate for longer, I should say.
For longer, yeah.
But it also makes me wonder, how much faster it might be once, they do a V4 version of supercharger.
Well, they're just going to unlock the V3 superchargers to do 320 kilowatts or whatever.
Oh, yeah? They can do that? Okay, I didn't realize.
They can do anything. They're on megawatt cabinets, so you can just jam that thing, blow that cable up. Okay. Basically, it's either going to be, do they need to upgrade all the cables, or can they just upgrade the power? And no question, those things have no trouble outputting 250 kilowatts. Back when V3 supercharging was just coming online, maybe 2 years ago, I was doing a ton of V3 testing with my rear-wheel drive Model 3. And it was buggy. I mean, we give EA and all these other stations a lot of crap for having these communication issues. It was the same thing when V3 was rolling out. I wasn't even able to charge at one particular station, even though other cars were. And that was just because my car's battery was hot enough to accept full power. All of these weird little intricacies, they're much better now. But I forgot where I was going with this. Something about
peak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Raising the charging power. That thing would sit at 253, 254 kilowatts, no problem. Like it would just right up to it. So those things can output way more than 250 kilowatts per post. I don't know how many amps that those cables are rated up to, but I would guess they're pushing their limits already.
Yeah. One of the things
that
I
really
like.
thin.
One of the things that I liked from this recording that we put up was that from 20% to 80%, it averaged 130 kilowatts. So, that's, we talk about the peak rates all the time, but 20 to 80, 130 average, that's good.
That's e-tron level right there.
Yeah, that's
a 140
level.
average.
Yeah.
That's good to see.
Yeah. And
that's with the old batteries too. So the next kind of thing, like with Cybertruck or the next battery, we should expect even better than that, I would think.
Yeah. Well, it's always going to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you never know. But I was surprised with this, with the new batteries, because they're using the original cells, like the 18650s, 3s, or whatever they are, the little laptop battery size. I guess there's just so much better.
The Plaid's a smaller battery pack than the dual motor Model S, though, isn't it?
It is slightly smaller.
It's 100.
Right?
It's 100.
So it doesn't even have the extra bandwidth to take. So I don't know what's going on there exactly. I think the new module design is helping a lot, and probably the chemistry of the cells as well.
Cooling is a big part of it as well, and cooling specific components for DC fast charging. I'm going to work with a company this summer. We're going to do a whole charger rating thing and take a look at performance under peak load scenarios. It should be kind of fun. Should get nerdy.
Hey, so talking about that Model S Plaid, it's at the Pikes Peak again this year. Randy Popes is driving an unplugged performance. I think they got this unplugged performance, got a hold of this before the actual delivery event, and they've racified it. It's got a cage, it's got those fancy stands inside the vehicle, so you can jack it up. Boom, it jacks itself up in the air. And
right, air jacks.
They put a round steering wheel in it. Because that's what he's
you got to
used
go
to
around corners up Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, some nice corners. There's some great. We got some posts up from different runs, or you can go to YouTube and check out Randy's own personal YouTube channel. He had a video up there yesterday of the middle section. It was a little damp, and so he couldn't go all out. He was running on slicks, a new set of slicks. But they also doing. They're still tweaking the car. They did a little suspension setup, so it's just running a lot better. He's pretty excited. He's great. It's great to watch this guy drive, man. He's obviously a great driver, but he also talks when he's driving, and he gets excited. He's like, woo, making all kinds of noise. Yeah, it's a really fun. And personally, I love Pikes Peak. I had the opportunity to go there, and so I have an idea of where he is on the track and just how steep and how just crazy those hills and cliffs are. You've been there too, Kyle. You're going to go this Sunday? Is it this Sunday? Right?
I'll be there all weekend. Yeah.
Oh,
So normally I'd like to go for all the practice days, but we've been slammed with work here. So I'll be there. Yeah, from Saturday, basically from tomorrow morning up until the end of the race.
You can be awake the whole time, basically, because they don't even sleep for a little bit Saturday night to Sunday morning when the race actually starts, right?
Right. So we have to get to the gate. I think at 1:30 a.m. is when the media are allowed up on the mountain. And I want to get up, and I'm going to bring the sprinter up there and bring a whole bunch of beer and food for everyone. We're just going to have a nice little party right out trackside. Should be a blast, and hopefully get some cool little videos and of course cover the race, and should be a blast. I'm excited to see this Plaid go up, though. There's worth mentioning as well. There's 3 other Model 3s, I believe.
Is there?
Okay. So 4 Teslas in total, maybe 3 Teslas in total. Some with a pro drifting driver. Some very.
Is that the Japanese guy?
Yeah, Japanese.
His time was just like a few seconds behind Randy's in the Model 3.
He's a serious driver in a serious car. And so, look, the Model 3 is lighter than Model S.
Sure.
It's a proven chassis. We know how well it can corner. And a lot of this track certainly is raw acceleration on corner exit. That's where you can make up a lot of time. Yeah. But if you're a good driver, you can throw a Model 3 into some corners and really eat up. So should be fun. It's so cool. Yeah, track mode. I mean, I think Model S has track mode as well. This Plaid, I'm sure they're working with Tesla. They got modes. They got stuff going on here, I'm sure. Okay. And so you can see a whole bunch of stuff on the screen that's not user accessible, just even in this screenshot. So, they got some stuff going on.
Right. Hey, do you know what part of the mountain you're going to be parked on?
Yeah, so I think I'll be up at Devil's Playground, which is, I think, 12,500 feet, 12,700 feet, right up close to the end. Yep. It's actually the start of the 3rd section of the track. Maybe it's not that high. I think it might be, though.
There should be a little bit of snow there still, I think.
Yeah, I think we're going to be battling weather. I think we're going to see snow and ice. Last year, the race was delayed a few hours because of ice at the finish line. We've been having some rain and wind and inclement weather coming in just in time for the race, unfortunately. So fingers crossed. And not sure how well it'll turn out, but I'm excited. And the nice thing about hanging out at Devil's Playground, especially if we can get up there early and get us a good spot, is you get a really good line of the car for a long period of time, which is hard at Pikes Peak because normally it's corner, then they're gone. And it's like, okay, that was exciting 2 seconds. And here we will be able to have the car in vision for close to 25 to 30 seconds, which will be great.
Sweet. Okay. So other couple of things I wanted to mention on the show. Okay, we had some Ford F-150 Lightning potential pricing things based on a survey they did. They're checking out what people actually think of these price points, and so they survey some people. And we already knew the price of the first 2 levels. It's $39,974 for the Pro. That's the cheap version you have to buy from a commercial dealer. And then for normal dealerships, it starts with the XLT model at $52,974. Well, now they have potential Lariat pricing, or the XLT premium package. It could be around the 56,774 neighborhood. Lariat 64,005. Lariat Premium up to 79,000, and the Platinum one is a little bit lower than the number they were throwing around originally. It's 89,874. Martin's got it up on the screen for us. Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see what I'm talking about right there. So that Platinum version originally on the website, they still say around $90,000 something dollars. So this is like $600 cheaper than it was on the site. So maybe that's not a big difference when you're paying out that kind of money for a vehicle, but it always looks better on paper, to see an 8 instead of a 9 and starting those numbers off. But I didn't really want to spend a lot of time on that, but it's just something for people to check out. So this week there's a couple of things coming up. Oh, right. So Elon Musk announced it's having its upcoming Tesla Artificial Intelligence Day. That's only in like a month or so. But if you want to get an idea of where they're at with development for artificial intelligence for their autonomous driving, the director of artificial intelligence, Andrej Karpathy, he gave a keynote address for the CVPR 2021 workshop on autonomous vehicles, where he talked a lot about how Tesla is using cameras and AI to develop its full self-driving software. And you can find that story on Inside AVs and a video. It's definitely worth watching. You just search for Tesla Vision on the site, and it should be the top story. So that's going to be, so AI Day is like something coming up in a month or so, and Elon time maybe 2 months, who knows. But anyway, but also this week, let's see. Oh yes, so next Wednesday, if you're an early riser, Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern, Volvo will be sharing details about its future technology roadmap in an event they're calling Tech Moment. So, and we'll be talking about that here next week, no doubt. So during that day, you'll get a glimpse of the technologies that underpin their future. It will feature an array of interactive sessions that cover areas such as their path to full electrification, core computing, and the next level of safety, and the introduction of safe autonomous driving. They're looking at similar to what GM is saying, zero crashes. So that's something that we'll be talking about next week. And I believe Volvo wants to go all electric by 2030, which is, pretty soon. It's ambitious, and it's an ambitious target. And it's also funny because they started off their own sub brand called Polestar, which is, all electric already. So I don't know. We're going to have a simultaneous Polestar, and I don't know. Kyle, you have any thoughts on this real quick?
Oh, I got some thoughts. Volvo's confused right now. They are claiming we're going to be 100% electric by 2030. However, their initial launch of XC40 Recharge, I would say, was a total dud here in the US. They invited all of us, or me and Tom, over to drive the XC40 Recharge. I couldn't go because it was snowing, but Tom went on my behalf as well as him, and he did double work for us that day. Thank you, Tom. And that was it was snowing. It was February.
Right.
Okay. They had, I don't know, 30 XC40 Recharges, silver and green. And those are all meant to be media vehicles. And guess what? Not one of them is out there, at least not here to Denver yet. You'd think if they want to show us the car, they'd bring it out here to me and TFL and some of the other outlets out here. That's not happening due to software. So, okay. Oh. Secondly, they don't charge on Signet chargers without a hardware upgrade I can't remember if it's the charger or the car, but you could basically, if you own a Volvo or a Polestar and you want to go on a road trip using Electrify America, based off of what some owners have told me is their guidance has been to just call Electrify America and they will give you a route plan, which is nice of them, but it routes you around Signet chargers. Well, what if you live on the East Coast where there are only Signet chargers? I don't know, but I feel like we should try that now before that problem gets resolved, because that would be kind of interesting. Yeah. And also, Tom couldn't get an XC40 Recharge to charge on a Signet charger. We now know why, because of this issue back when he was testing it. And So the company wants to go all electric, but they're not working with the key partners here in the US, obviously, because it would have just worked on the charging networks. And the car's not that great. They're very inefficient. Their charging sucks in the cold, based off of what I'm told. I have a friend that saw one at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was only doing like 52 kilowatts at 20% because it was cold soaked.
And,
you really got to heat everything up.
I just want to point out too that I just wanted to point out that you love Volvo. So,
I'm the biggest Volvo nerd fan
right?
ever. I love that. I love them.
And I love how it drove. It drove great. I thought
Right.
the vehicle drove great, but they as Kyle's pointing out, it's kind of a hot mess right now. They need.
Well, look, there's a positive
get them things
for
straight.
every negative. Yeah, here. I mean, the car looks amazing, drives sure great. I've driven Polestar too. Same thing underneath. It fits the image, the aura. I think the range is pretty poor, given that the hype that we had for the vehicle. I think the efficiency is not great, and for them to just go ahead and say we're going all electric, but yet they've not proven to us that they can build a good electric car. Yeah, that's kind of weird. At least get your current product right and trusted in the market, and then say we're going to build an electric car. I think Volvo does some of the best plug-in hybrids. I really love them. I get to test them. My sister's buying a new car here pretty soon. I've recommended XC60 to her. I'm the biggest Volvo fan ever, but there is a big but with this whole electrification thing, and that is that the cars aren't great. Same with Polestar. They have the same software issues. I don't know what's going on here, but they're not confident in their product. Otherwise, they would have each of those vehicles in our driveways for testing. It's just the case.
Are they advertising? Because I haven't seen a whole lot of anything about the XC40 recharge anywhere, really. And
I saw a commercial on TV back when the car was launched about how it was all designed by women, which made Alyssa very interested in the car.
Right.
And that seemed to speak to her really well. And she's like, oh, that's so cool. That woman designed the powertrain or designed this. I like that. I want that car. Right. That's what made her very interested in it.
It wasn't the exterior interior design. It was the drivetrain design, which is really cool. I met her actually at the Recharge launch originally. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love that I'm now a victim of EV FUD, by the way. Thanks, David. I see that. Yeah. Good. That's fine. It's accurate information. I'm sorry.
I know. The regular viewers will know that if Kyle likes something, you'll be effusive about it. But if you're less than keen, then you won't mince your words, or you won't give someone an easy ride and be like, oh, it's okay. But so you give praise and criticism equally for those who don't watch regularly.
The screen captain's
I can pick apart anything. Right? I just bought myself a new vehicle, and I've made an hour-long video pointing out all of the issues with it. I mean, those videos
with your own money, yeah.
Right, yeah. I paid for this thing, so that doesn't mean I wouldn't buy one or I think it's bad. It's just the case is there's some serious issues with current EVs on the market today that need fixing quick.
Yeah. Let's get this. I mean, if you don't want to sell people, this dream, and then when they actually buy into it, it's a nightmare, So we have to talk about we have to talk about what's wrong, what needs to be fixed, addressed, and light the fire underneath manufacturers and get things good, because things need to be good.
Who else is testing them? It's Bjorn. It's me and Tom pushing the limits with these cars. Maybe you could argue these Edmunds and Motor Trends are out there doing things, but and certainly I'm not to discredit them. I'm sure they're great organizations, but I really think doing these in-depth testing, evaluating driving performance, evaluating charging, evaluating thermal longevity of these EVs, there's not many people doing that out there, but there's hundreds of them doing them for combustion vehicles. So, look, I'd love to be EV positive all the way, all the time, but it's not the case.
And particularly if the car won't charge on a certain type of charger, then
that's an issue.
That's an issue. So if one of my friends or my parents or my wife was driving that car and they call me, I'm like, I'm at a charging station, it's not working, and I'm like, are you at a Signet? They're going to say to me, am I what? Like, I don't care. Like, what?
Well, maybe we should reach out to Volvo this week and see what they're saying about that situation.
Well, I just wanted to also bring something in, and I think, Tom, maybe you were going to mention this, but this is not a fault of EA in this particular case.
Yeah, off the record, they were frustrated that they couldn't get a hold of a Volvo earlier to test this because there's a lot of intricacies, and we've talked about how Electrify America uses four. They used to use 4 different vendors. Now it's down to 3, and that creates problems with having validation on every type of manufacturer. And they need to get a hold of the vehicle at least 6 or 7 months before it's going to be in customers' hands, preferably a year. And most manufacturers comply with that. Some don't. And so then when the vehicle hits the market and somebody plugs in and it doesn't work, who do they blame? They blame the charging station more than their car because, hey, my car charges at home just fine. Why won't it charge here? So they don't get that. And, Electrify America takes a lot of bullets, rightfully so, on things that they're not doing right. So that they feel like if this is an instance where it's not our fault, damn it, don't blame us, because we get blamed enough on things that, well, maybe we haven't done right ourselves. It was kind of like when, if you remember a few weeks ago, I had the Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, and it was a German spec car with German communication modules, and I plug in, it doesn't work. Electrify America was like, we don't understand. Taycans work fine. And I'm like, yeah, well, this is kind of a special one. It just came over from Germany, and they're like, God damn it, Tom! Like,
what are you doing?
Exactly. You're not going to tell people it doesn't work, are you? No, I know it's my fault. Porsche kind of warned me that you might have trouble charging. But we did get it to work. Electrify America was on the phone with me for 2 hours, and they called Porsche. And, no one wants to be hanging out in a Target parking lot for 2 hours, but I was able to charge the car. They figured out how to change things in the charging station, and it got it to work. So they're trying. They're still not there yet, but some of these issues are not their fault. That's what Kyle was saying.
Okay.
Right. All I'm saying is it's not always the charging station provider's fault that the cars don't charge.
True. Hey, so really quickly too, we got to get out of here. But I just want to mention that Jan in the comments, who I believe is probably in Norway, maybe Martin can pronounce his name properly. You're good with it.
Jan Tor. I don't know how I've interviewed Jan on my podcast, and I've forgotten how I say his Gyobi surname. He runs e-mobility Norway, so he is a big e-mobility advocate. He was there when they put the first DC fast chargers into Norway all those years ago, and he trains people at e-mobility Norway on the world of electric vehicles. So he's Norway's Tom and Kyle.
Oh, sweet. So he's just pointing out that he loves his XC40 Recharge. It's the best EV to drive and good enough range and charging. So, I just want to throw that out there.
Great car. Fantastic car.
Right.
Weird charging bugs in the US.
So let's see if we can get in touch with them this weekend and see what the situation is now. So because we want to be current, because these things are
we should have them on the
evolving.
Podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great.
For having such a pioneer to come on and share another European perspective would be awesome.
Yeah. We'll get Jan on.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to the end of our show. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EVs forum podcast thread, or on the YouTube comments below, or Twitch comment section. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, or a rating if you're listening on another platform. Don't forget, you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Tom Malogney is at Tomlog. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily. Kyle Connor is at It's Kyle Connor. And I'm at Dominic_Y. Click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications, and we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.